Today's State Fair animal.
Hail the flashlight king.
Let's do brushing. And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Heidt in the newsroom, and of course, the rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
What does Trump mean when he said in 4 years from now you won't have to vote? What does he mean?
For me again? That's
No,
the way I took it.
he said it during a number of stops. In 4 years, we'll have it all fixed. Everything will be set. You won't have to vote again. Would somebody care to explain that to me?
I took it as you won't have to vote. You won't have to go through this with me again. That's what I took it as.
Okay.
Because we have to still vote.
Anyone? Staff? Anyone?
Well,
I would have to hear it in context.
I'm going to try to find it here. How about this right here, ladies and gentlemen?
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years. You know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
What's
my
that
theory's
mean?
gone. My
What's
theory's
that
out
mean?
the
I
door.
think I understand what he's saying.
I do not know.
A lot of
I
people
don't-
like Christ.
No.
Helping the blind.
I don't
Get
mean
it.
to get heavy, 90 seconds into the program.
Oh, why not?
But I think what he's saying is there are so many people that are skeptics of the election process that once he's elected, he is saying we will fix all of that, meaning mail-in ballots, vote early, vote often. All the people that have already casted a vote for Biden, by the way. I mean, that's probably what he's referring to.
All right, John, I think you might have a take.
I took it to mean, I know how everybody else took it, and it sounds awful, and I think that was just his reading of the thing. I took it to mean he can fix everything in 4 years so that you won't have to worry about voting in 4 years. So the U.S. will be perfect at that point. That's the way I thought he meant it, although it sounded the way it came out of his mouth as if everything's fixed. Forget about it. We're good. And then he was on another show telling people not to vote, which was odd. I thought he said, we don't need the votes. Don't vote. So I don't know what.
Don't bother.
I don't know what he thinks, but I know what you, Joe, thinks.
So what do you think I think?
You think that he's going to appoint himself the lifelong dictator of the United States.
I don't know if
voting will be eliminated.
I don't know if he can get away with that, but that wouldn't surprise me if he makes that attempt. He's bold enough, I don't know. I have to introduce a very sad note. Not that wasn't. A very sad Olympic note.
Oh,
What?
hold
Did
on,
somebody
hold on.
break an ankle? Yeah, please.
Can you slow that down, Chris, and make it mournful?
We're number one in Anguilla, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yes.
And it's occurred to all of us that we should be rooting for the Anguilla Olympians. There aren't any.
Oh, no.
In fact, it's worse than that. The Olympic Committee does not recognize Anguilla as a nation. We're number one in a nation that is unrecognized by the
Not the
world.
nation.
Okay. That's sad. That's a downer.
It is, isn't it, Matt?
Accuracy.
I had my Anguilla colors on and little flags ready to go, and only to realize that
Nope.
they're not a country, but we're number one.
So
there.
what was the Anguilla qualifying process like? Fellas, you know what?
Well,
What do you have to
They're
bring
already-
your passport there?
they're already represented.
By who?
Britain.
They're not a. Are they still subject to England?
It's an overseas territory of Britain.
Okay, Mr. Politics. That's fine.
Well,
Yeah, then Kenny's right.
Okay,
I
but,
brought it up the first day
but a
this
lot of
came
those
up
little
months
teeny
ago.
islands have teams, and they're beholden to some bigger country.
British overseas territory in the Caribbean. It is one of the most northerly of the Leeward Islands in the Lesser Antilles.
Yeah, but they're not recognized as a nation. Now, I think some of the other islands are. The Trinidad Tobago has a team.
20,
They had to combine two countries to get one, but they got a team.
20 best things to do in Anguilla.
No,
Listen to Garage
Listen
Logic.
to Garage Logic.
Right,
We're
number
number
one.
one in Anguilla. Well, that dashes my hopes of cheering for, Anguilla track
Here.
stars.
I looked it up. In 71, they seceded from British rule after a revolt. And in 1980, it became a separate British dependency.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
That means they're still,
suckling?
yes.
Here we go. Anguilla is an external territory of the UK and therefore is not eligible to independently compete in the Olympic Games. That does not mean that athletes from Anguilla have not represented their territory on the world stage, Joe
Right, but
Soucheray.
they'll be under someone else's flag.
Keith Connor
Really?
was born in Anguilla. Oh, and he participated in the 1964 Olympic
For
Games.
who?
For Great Britain.
Okay, see.
He won a bronze medal.
If I may, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
In what?
Track and field, triple jump,
Yeah.
triple jump.
If I may confuse everybody even more,
Yeah.
Anguilla is a British overseas territory, and there are 14 British overseas territories with a constitutional and historical link with the United Kingdom that, while not forming part of the United Kingdom itself, are part of its sovereign territory. The permanently inhabited territories are delegated varying degrees of internal security.
Well, let's just leave it at this. We're number one in a country that does not have an Olympic team.
Okay.
Speaking of the Olympics.
So to summarize it in my terms, dumbing it way down, the UK basically has their extended arm on Anguilla's forehead.
Yes.
And they're just swinging like this left and right, aren't they?
Knocking
Yes.
everything over. Yes.
Knocking everything over. So that's in terms of what I see.
Shara Proctor is competing in this year's Olympic Games.
Is she from Anguilla?
She is.
And she's
What
under
is
the
she? She's
flag
on the
of the
British
UK.
team, the British long jump team.
Well, they got some jumpers in Anguilla,
Yeah.
don't they?
Well,
A lot
you
of
gotta
running
you know
down
what
there.
that comes from? The hot sand.
Yeah.
They're always jumping
You gotta
around.
Hot lava.
The sand is hot.
Yep.
The hot lava game's fun.
I
isn't
saw
it?
some
Awesome
video of the 1908 Olympics.
Oh,
I could have out jumped the high jumpers.
Well, you were there, weren't you?
No, I was 76. I was 76, 82, and 88. I was in the Olympics.
Where was 76?
I was over there.
I'm surprised that you
Montreal.
were actually even watching the Olympics after the opening ceremonies. I figured you and your family were protesting.
Well,
the
I want to get
Olympics.
into that. Jordy notes, why is a planet-wide celebration of athleticism an uncommon sporting prowess being introduced with yet another tedious display of cross-dressing, oddly selective sacrilege and self-satisfied obesity? And Bert wants to know, I'm okay with the Last Supper affair. I think the Last Supper is kind of a public domain thing. It gets the needle occasionally. Robert Altman making MASH had a go at it, for example. I suggest it's best not to get too worked up about it. However, we as Christians now reserve the right to poke fun at all LGBTQ stuff, and they have to shut up as we are told to do. Of course, not much needs to be done, as the LGBTQ community often devolves into hypocrisy and self-parody anyway. Look, we're lazy and we dress wacky. Notice us. Grow up, said Bert. Now, I got home Friday night from a restaurant.
Oh, what did you end up having?
I
Mutton?
can't pronounce it, or otherwise I would tell you.
Okay.
Was it fish?
No.
Well, he was looking at the menu prior to.
So I turn it on in time for most of the opening games. And I remember, and I must admit, I remember just being puzzled. I don't remember being offended by anything. I was just puzzled as to what the hell they were doing. There was a fashion show in the middle of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Walking across a catwalk on one of the bridges. I didn't understand the need for that. And then there was what I'm now understanding was the Last Supper parody, where there was a table and there was a big fat chick that sat there with a crown on.
Yep.
Who was the fat chick supposed to be? Was that Christ?
A lot of people are comparing that to the Last Supper.
So I thought, but again, Friday night, that did not dawn on me that was the Last Supper. I just passed it off to, oh, look at these wacky French. I thought the boats full of people was cool.
Great idea.
That's the first time in Olympic history the opening ceremonies were not in an arena or,
I loved it, and I do love the fact that they were showcasing.
It was raining.
Yeah, they were showcasing parts of Paris and
I loved
France.
it. I've taken that boat trip. It was neat.
I have not done
I loved it. But then then the boats got done, and then there was this fashion show, which was really strange. And then that fat chick sitting at a table, giant fat chick with a crown on, right?
Some buddies.
And I paid it no mind. I didn't know what in God's name that was, only to read and begin reading that it was a parody of the Last Supper. And the French have apologized if you were offended. They issued a non-apology apology.
Were you offended?
Well, I can't claim that I was at the time because I didn't know what I was looking at.
Got it.
I was after as well. I didn't catch that.
And my only response would be in terms of being offended. That's fine, but let's haul Allah out there and have at him.
Can't do that.
Why not?
He's an untouchable. Can't even make a cartoon picture.
Evidently, the Muslims are leading the way in the offended because of the gay people.
Is that right? I don't know that.
The menage a trois deal?
Yeah.
What's
and
the
are you
menage
sure
a
this
trois?
gal that you keep referring to, are you sure that's not a trans?
Whatever. I have no idea. Just a big fat person. Because I guess we're supposed to, be sensitive to obesity? What was the message with the fat chick? I have no idea.
Well, God help us if we treat humans like humans.
The menage a trois deal was the two guys and the gal that were dressed up as clowns, and they were making it very evident as to what their intent was going to be.
Okay, could somebody explain to me what that had to do with the Olympics?
Nothing, but Paris was trying to say we must have invented the menage a trois, whatever the case may be. The only person that has successfully parodied, what do you call that? Parodied. That has a successful parody is Mel Brooks when he's the waiter at the Last Supper. Is this going to all be on one tab, or do you have to, it's hilarious. And then somebody says to me, goes, Jesus. And Jesus goes, yes. It's about 2 minutes and it's hilarious.
Remember one time you and I got into a discussion of which chalice would be used at the Last Supper, the good one?
That's the one where somebody claimed they had the chalice and it was all blinged up. And we said,
Christ would
my
not
Lord
do
and
that.
Savior would have had a simple.
Jesus would have gone with the simple cup.
But then,
although we thought, maybe he brings the special one out.
It's the last night. We got one left.
Yeah.
You only know about that because of Indiana Jones.
Not really.
That's basically my religious. The Ark of the Covenant comes from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yes.
No, I remember what it was. Some guy claimed to have found a blinged up one.
Right, and they were claiming it was in Spain, and they were claiming that was used.
And we doubted that, didn't we?
We went off and said, then Jesus is doing card tricks, and he's dressing up the chalice a little bit to look a little bit nicer.
Would you call it bedazzled?
Bedazzled, thank you. That's
bedazzled.
A better word. Yes, Kenny.
That was the inspiration behind a really bad segment. You remember that best of? The bedazzled chalice, and you went off, and he got really mad.
What do you think we're talking
that's
about?
What?
No.
That's when we did the Amazing Mumford.
The Amazing Mumford.
I love peanut butter sandwiches. That was
a Mississippi tech company.
I remember Thomas doubted that it was over there, and Jesus said, Tommy, why don't you go take another look over there? We'll see what's behind it.
A Mississippi tech company pulled all its Olympics advertising in response to the opening ceremony's depiction of the Last Supper featuring heavily costumed drag queens. Faced with global criticism from Christian leaders, the Paris 2024 organizers issued an apology Sunday, saying they were sorry if any group felt insulted. Well, so they didn't apologize.
Right.
That's the non-apology apologize. The French Organization of Catholic Bishops denounced the performance as scenes of derision and mockery of Christianity, which we deeply deplore. House Speaker Mike Johnson weighed in. Last night's mockery of the Last Supper was shocking and insulting to Christian people around the world. And there's a piece in the New York Post. Olympic Last Supper debacle was latest effort to denigrate Western culture. It was an absurd and offensive opening ceremony involving a parody of the Last Supper with transsexuals, drag queens, exposed testicles. I missed that. Was there some exposed boys?
I didn't see a couple of hangers.
And a
Must not have looked hard
fat, blue-painted, semi-clad man. Well, it was a guy, all right, apparently intended to represent Dionysus, the Greek god of wine. Oh, well, then it wasn't supposed to be God, right?
Okay.
All right. And then we learned that after a storm of international protests, the organizers have issued a weak, "We're sorry if you were offended" apology. That's a non-apology. They say they were shocked that anyone could be bothered by what they said was a testament to inclusion. Oh. But its biggest sin was not blasphemy. It was that it stunk. Although American news media tried to spin the uproar as coming from a few right-wing religious nuts, the truth is lots of people were offended, and not just in America. The backlash in France, Italy, Britain, and elsewhere from both religious and non-religious was tremendous. There were efforts to defend the debacle, but the truth is revealed by the airbrushing that followed as the sponsors initiated a massive takedown effort using copyright claims to get videos of the ceremony struck from YouTube and X. If they thought their work was good, why would they hide it? Well, because it was lousy. And this is the most important part. It was designed to stink. Lousy culture like this is a power statement. Look at what we can get away with, and also a convenient benchmark. One needs a little in the way of talent to produce such an exhibition. Chutzpah will do. Why was it designed to stink? Again, power. A friend pointed out that the only good recent Olympic opening ceremonies were in Sochi, Russia, and in Beijing. Those governments, whatever their many flaws, wanted to present a positive message about their nations and their cultures to the world. They wanted to portray themselves as rising powers full of cultural vigor. Ceremonies like the Paris opener, on the other hand, are intended to do just the opposite. They are intended to mock and denigrate underlying Western culture, which even atheists like Richard Dawkins admit is Christian. This, we're told, is brave. Or they pretend surprised that anyone is offended. But as the French say, some French saying, meaning they're always aware. And as we all know, they never mock Islam in the spirit of inclusion, which is true. Partly that's out of fear. Unlike Christians, Muslims tend to respond to mockery with violence. And partly it comes from the belief that mocking non-Western culture is somehow racist. I guess you can, but there's more than just anti-Christian bigotry here. As Eric S. Raymond tweeted, what was on display here wasn't anti-Christianity. It was a compulsion to defecate all over any source of meaning and value in favor of a depraved narcissism. We have let the mentally ill game our tolerance for too long. It's time to start stuffing them back into asylums. And again, I don't know what this says about me, but I didn't get that Friday night. I just thought, what in God's name is this? And what does it have to do with the Olympics?
Isn't the featuring gay and trans people, in fact, a mockery of Islam?
I guess the Muslims are pretty down on the gay deal, even though the idiotic college students we have in this country from the failed academy are cheering for
Hamas
because, in fact, there's queers for Hamas, because these idiots don't realize they'd last about 2 seconds there.
Right.
You know?
Right.
France also has a reputation of going after Muslims more than anybody. That's where Charlie Hebdo is, the magazine.
Right.
They regularly go after them. In fact, they've been attacked 3 times in the last 10 years.
Well,
because
then
of
you had the big
cartoons
the
and that sort of
nightclub
thing.
terrorism attack.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you saying, John? The French are brave? I
No,
think they're
I'm not saying
idiots.
they're brave. I'm just
Yeah.
saying they'll go after the Muslims too, if given the chance.
Yeah, I don't think they're courting the Muslims and the religion of Islam at this point. They may have in their history, but that's no longer the case.
If you live in Big Lake, Monticello, Sauk Rapids, Sartell, St. Michael, or